July 2nd, 1937, a daring aviatrix soars into the skies, never to be seen again. Amelia Earhart's disappearance is one of the most haunting mysteries of the 20th century. How could the world's most famous female pilot vanish without a trace? Decades later, we are still asking that chilling question. Was it an unfortunate crash at sea? A capture by foreign forces? Or something even stranger? This documentary will journey through the final known moments of Earhart's fateful flight and explore the most compelling theories that keep this enigma alive. Amelia Earhart vanished somewhere over the Pacific. It's a line that has captured imaginations for over 80 years. Today, we retrace Amelia's last flight, piece together the facts, and delve into the shadowy realm of speculation surrounding her fate. Stay tuned as we embark on a voyage into one of aviation's greatest mysteries. In the summer of 1937, Amelia Earhart was on an ambitious mission to become the first woman to fly around the world. By late June, she and her navigator, Fred Noonan, had already conquered most of the globe. Their twin-engine Lockheed Electra had carried them from Miami to South America, across Africa, through the Middle East, to India and Southeast Asia. The final leg of their journey was the most challenging, a 2,556-mile flight over open ocean from New Guinea to a speck of land in the Pacific called Howland Island. On July 2, 1937, at 10 a.m. local time, Earhart's Electra lifted off from La's dirt runway, heavily loaded with fuel for the long flight. Waiting near Howland was the Coast Guard cutter USCGC Itasca, deployed to assist Earhart by radio and guide her to the tiny island. Earhart's plan was to home in on Howland using radio signals from the Itasca. But as the Electra neared the vicinity of Howland in the pre-dawn hours of July 2nd, having crossed the international date line, it was still July 2nd on the island. Things started to go wrong. Earhart's radio transmissions, initially routine, grew tense. At 7:20 a.m. Howland time, her voice cut through static, indicating she was low on fuel and couldn't locate the island. The Itasca received her message. We are on the line 157-337, running north and south. This meant Earhart was following a navigational line of position, 157 degrees per 337 degrees, that should have intersected Howland Island. But with only empty ocean in sight, she sounded anxious. The Itasca radio operators heard her signal strength rising to maximum. Amelia had to be near them, but she wasn't receiving their replies. In her final known transmission, around 8:43 a.m., Earhart's voice was faint and desperate. She could not hear the ship and was running out of fuel. And then silence. Earhart and Noonan never made it to Howland. The Itasca's crew, straining at their instruments and scanning the skies, got no further replies. Amelia Earhart's voice went quiet, and she vanished into legend. The immediate response was swift. Roughly 1 hour after Earhart's last message, the Itasca began searching along the presumed flight path. Within days, the United States Navy joined in, launching what was then the most expensive and intensive air-sea search in American history. For 2 weeks, ships and planes combed thousands of square miles of ocean around Howland Island, calling out for Earhart on radio, but no trace was found. Not a piece of wreckage, not an oil slick, nothing. It was as if Amelia Earhart and her plane had disappeared off the face of the earth. Public fascination and anxiety were at a fever pitch. Radio operators from as far away as San Francisco and Nauru Island strained to catch any post-loss distress calls. There were a few tantalizing signals picked up. One amateur in Oakland reported hearing a voice calling distress on July 3rd. However, these signals were sporadic and unconfirmed, and many later proved to be hoaxes or misunderstandings. Hope dwindled with each passing day. By July 19, 1937, the official search was called off. In January 1939, Amelia Earhart was declared legally dead, her fate unresolved. Those are the hard facts as we know them. A highly experienced pilot took off for a tiny island, reported increasing trouble in navigation, likely ran low on fuel, and vanished after a final radio message. The U.S. government concluded that Earhart's plane ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. Most historians tend to agree that the simplest explanation, a crash and sink in the Pacific, is the most likely. But without physical evidence, doubt lingered. The world, unwilling to let go of Amelia so easily, began to speculate. What really happened out there in the vast Pacific? This is where the line between fact and legend begins to blur, and a slew of mysterious theories take wing. With no wreckage found and no definitive answers, the mystery deepened. Over the years, several theories emerged to explain Earhart's disappearance, each with its own intrigue and loyal supporters. Let's explore the most enduring theories, from the straightforward to the sensational, that attempt to shed light on Amelia Earhart's fate. The first and most straightforward theory is exactly what the Navy suspected from the start. Amelia crashed into the sea not far from Howland Island, and the Electra now rests on the deep ocean floor. Earhart's last radio transmissions indicated she was in the immediate area of Howland, but couldn't see it. It's possible she and Noonan, low on fuel, ditched the aircraft into the water gently, a controlled sea landing, or came in hard. In either case, the Pacific Ocean would have swallowed the plane quickly. The crashed and sank theory implies that all evidence, the plane and the fates of Amelia and Fred, lies in deep water, perhaps thousands of feet down, beyond easy discovery. Supporting this theory is its sheer plausibility. Navigating by dead reckoning and celestial fixes, Noonan could have miscalculated Howland's position or been thrown off by clouds and radio issues. We know their radio direction finding wasn't working properly, and Amelia was unfamiliar with some of the newer equipment. If they were even a few miles off course, Howland, a tiny coral atoll only 2 miles long, would be almost impossible to spot. Running out of fuel with no land in sight, a crash at sea becomes inevitable. The vast Pacific in that area reaches depths of 17,000 feet, an abyss that could hide an aircraft for eternity. Indeed, most official investigations and historians have concluded this is what happened. And yet, hauntingly, no one has ever found a piece of Amelia's Electra in those waters. Over the decades, multiple expeditions have tried to locate the underwater wreck. Notably, oceanographer Robert Ballard, famed for finding the Titanic, conducted an extensive deep-sea search around Howland and the surrounding ocean in 2019. After 2 weeks of scanning the seafloor with advanced sonar and cameras, Ballard reported no hint of Earhart's plane. Even more recently, in 2024, a sonar detection of a possible wreckage gave a brief glimmer of hope, but turned out to be just a coral formation on the seabed. These frustrating failures to find any debris add a layer of mystery to the crash and sink scenario. It's possible the plane broke up and scattered, or lies further afield than expected, carried by currents. The ocean, it seems, is still jealously guarding Amelia's secrets. So if Amelia Earhart simply crashed at sea, it's an unresolved tragedy, but not a mystery beyond understanding. However, human nature craves a story. And soon, alternative theories sprouted, suggesting that something else happened on that July morning in 1937, something perhaps even more dramatic than an accident. Our next theory takes us to Nikomaroro, formerly known as Gardner Island, an uninhabited coral atoll about 350 miles southeast of Howland Island. What if Earhart and Noonan, failing to find Howland, flew a bit further along that 157 to 337 line she mentioned and spotted an alternate landing place? The Gardner Island hypothesis proposes that Amelia and Fred successfully crash-landed on Nikomaroro's flat coral reef at low tide. They may have survived there for days or weeks as castaways, hoping for rescue. This theory gained traction in the late 20th century thanks to research by TIRE, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery. TIRE expeditions to Nikomaroro found tantalizing clues. In 1940, a British colonial officer, Gerald Gallagher, discovered a partial human skeleton on the island along with a sextant box, a woman's shoe, and a bottle. Gallagher wrote that the skeleton was possibly that of a woman, and even wondered if it could be Earhart. These bones were sent to Fiji for analysis. The examining doctor in 1941 concluded the remains were from a man, and they were subsequently misplaced and lost. However, fast forward to recent times, modern scientists revisited the measurement data from those bones. A 2018 study argued that the skeletal measurements better match a female of Earhart's roughly 5 feet 7 inches stature than they do most males. In other words, it's possible the Fiji analysis was mistaken and that the bones could have been Amelia's. It's an enticing hint, though not a confirmation. And notably, other attempts to find bones on the island have turned up empty or inconclusive, including DNA tests on fragments that turned out to be male. Apart from bones, artifacts have emerged that fuel the castaway theory. Excavations on Nikumaroro uncovered improvised tools, pieces of makeup compacts, and American-origin items from the 1930s. Perhaps the most famous is a fragment of an aluminum panel found on the island that some researchers believe might be from Earhart's Electra's fuselage or an improvised repair she made during her journey. There's also a blurry 1937 photo taken by a British officer, the Bevington photograph, showing an object on a reef which some interpret as landing gear sticking out of the water. So did Amelia live out her final days as a castaway, scanning the empty horizon for a rescue that never came? It's a poignant picture, the world's most famous female pilot, surviving a crash only to face a lonely Robinson Crusoe end. Despite numerous expeditions to Nikumaroro, including high-tech searches by Ballard and others, no definitive proof has been found. The island holds its secrets tightly. Still, many find this theory compelling. It offers the hope that Earhart initially survived the ditching. The silent island, with its creeping crabs and dense scrub, might be the final witness to Amelia's fate. Our next theory veers into geopolitical intrigue. It supposes that Amelia Earhart's final flight didn't end with a crash or a solitary island. Instead, it ended in Japanese custody. The Japanese capture theory asserts that Earhart and Noonan, whether due to navigational error or a secret mission gone awry, ended up in the territory of the Japanese Empire, which in 1937 was expanding its influence in the Pacific. The Marshall Islands, about 800 miles to the north-northwest of Howland, were controlled by Japan as part of the League of Nations South Seas mandate. Could Amelia have flown off course, perhaps trying to find an alternate land, and reach the Marshall Islands? Some believe yes, and that the Japanese military intercepted her. According to this theory, Earhart and Noonan were captured and taken as prisoners, possibly suspected of being American spies. Remember, 1937 was a tense time. Japan was on the brink of war, and an American pilot appearing near Japanese-held territory would raise alarm. Over the years, a number of Marshall Islanders have come forward with second-hand accounts, stories of a white woman pilot and her navigator being taken into custody. Even some of Earhart's own relatives became convinced that Amelia met this fate, citing alleged witnesses among Japanese personnel and Pacific Islanders. One famous piece of purported evidence was a photograph discovered in 2017 in the U.S. National Archives showing a dock at Jalawat Atoll. In that photo, a seated figure and standing man were suggested to be Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody. The image caused a media storm. If true, it meant Amelia survived and was a prisoner. However, this smoking gun quickly fizzled out. Researchers found the same photo published in a travelogue in 1935, 2 years before Earhart disappeared. In other words, it could not have been them. The photograph was discredited, leaving the capture theory with intriguing anecdotes but no hard proof. Yet the lack of proof hasn't extinguished this theory. Variations of the story suggest Earhart and Noonan were taken to Saipan, a Japanese-administered island, and possibly held prisoner there. Some say they were executed as spies or died of disease in captivity. One fringe offshoot even claimed Amelia was coerced into making propaganda broadcasts as one of the many women nicknamed Tokyo Rose during World War II, though this has been debunked and overlaps with myth. Skeptics of the Japanese capture theory point out that it requires Earhart to have dramatically changed course northward for no clear reason, despite being low on fuel. It also requires a massive cover-up by both Japan and the U.S. There's no record in Japanese archives of a prisoner like Earhart. Nonetheless, the idea of Amelia as an unlucky spy victim has a dramatic allure. It transforms the narrative from accidental tragedy to international cover-up. Until or unless archives or archaeology yield a surprise, this theory remains in the realm of speculation. The final theory we'll examine is perhaps the most sensational, the idea that Amelia Earhart survived and returned to the United States under an assumed name, hiding in plain sight. In this scenario, there was no crash or she was rescued, and rather than returning in glory, Earhart chose, or was forced, to live out her life in anonymity. It sounds like the plot of a novel, and indeed it became one. In 1970, a book titled Amelia Earhart Lives made a stunning claim. A New Jersey banker and housewife named Irene Craigmile Bolam was in fact Amelia Earhart. The author, Joe Gervais, through writer Joe Kloss, alleged that Earhart had quietly resurfaced in the U.S., changed her name to Irene Bolam, and wanted to put her famous past behind her. This claim caused an uproar. Bolam, a real person, strenuously denied being Earhart, calling the suggestion absurd. She filed a $1.5 million lawsuit for defamation. In response, the book's publisher pulled it from shelves, and the suit was settled out of court. No credible evidence ever emerged to link Bolam to Earhart. Their facial features, personal histories, and handwriting all differed. Bolam even cooperated to prove she had her own documented life. Thus, the new identity theory largely crumbled, at least regarding Irene Bolam. Still, the mere idea was tantalizing. Could Amelia have survived and chosen a quiet life away from the spotlight? Some theorists speculated she might have been involved in a secret spy mission for the U.S. government, and upon being rescued, was given a new identity for her protection. There's no evidence for this cloak and dagger scenario, but it shows how far the imagination can stretch when a mystery refuses to resolve. The Irene Bolam episode, while debunked, cemented Amelia's status not just as a historical figure, but as a legend who some people desperately wanted to still be alive somewhere. Amelia Earhart's disappearance remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of our time. We have facts, a timeline of events up until her vanishing, and we have theories, each with its own narrative: the tragic accident, the castaway saga, the international intrigue, the secret life. And yet, no theory has been proven true. Amelia's fate is still out there, somewhere, waiting for closure. Generations of investigators, historians, and enthusiasts continue the hunt. Even now, expeditions set out with high-tech tools, combing reef, land, and sea for a clue. Just a piece of aluminum, a bone fragment, something to write the final chapter of the story. Perhaps one day we will find Amelia's plane deep beneath the waves, or uncover records that rewrite what we thought we knew. Until then, we are left with tantalizing possibilities and the enduring spirit of a woman who dared to chase her dream around the world. Amelia Earhart once said, "Adventure is worthwhile in itself." Her last adventure has certainly proven worthwhile for the world. It has inspired decades of curiosity and wonder. In the end, the mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance is more than just a puzzle to be solved. It's a testament to exploration and the human desire to seek answers. As we conclude our journey through the facts and theories we invite you to ponder, we believe happened on that fateful flight. Did Amelia find herself castaway on a lonely atoll, or fall into hostile hands, or simply succumb to the sea? The truth is still out there, echoing faintly like a lost radio signal across the Pacific. Until the day we uncover it, Amelia Earhart's legend will continue to live on, reminding us of the thin line between adventure and mystery. If you enjoyed diving into the mystery of Amelia Earhart with us, don't let this investigation end here. Hit the like button to help keep these unsolved stories alive. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next journey into history's greatest enigmas. And now we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Which theory do you find most convincing? Did Amelia crash into the sea, survive as a castaway, or was there something even more secret? Share this video with fellow mystery lovers, and let's keep the search for the truth alive. because sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones we may never fully explain.